Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show on the 10th day of December 2021. Up first, hazardous weather graphics. Last I checked, there weren't any out anywhere around the state, and there probably won't be for the next 24 hours or so. That may change, though, tomorrow. But for right now, there aren't any issued, any watches, warnings, or advisories. So going right to satellite imagery, you can see low pressure, pretty large low there, southern Gulf of Alaska, moving off to the northeast front, having made landfall and moved inland. Now just east of the Panhandle this afternoon, but still rain going on and kind of picking up again as that main low center moves to the northeast. The clouds sticking up again, and rain should start to get heavier again on the north coast. Areas of rain getting circulated back to the west and northwest, kind of following a trough axis there, and bringing lighter amounts of rain, about 1/4 of an inch at Seward. Anchorage at 0.05 of an inch. Those are 12-hour amounts, ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. And then rain with a system coming across the Bering Sea up there through the Bering Strait with some gusty winds. But wind not all that heavy with that system. Looking at, let's see, Golovin had about 1/3 of an inch of precipitation there, south coast of the Seward Peninsula, and Caltag had half that much. And one of the stronger winds gusts occurred at St. Michael with 35 miles an hour. Otherwise, you can see moisture spreading eastward across the southern Bering Sea there. That brought about 1/10 of an inch of precipitation to the Pribilofs and back to the west central Aleutians with that. Otherwise, Panhandle had varying amounts of precipitation there with, let's see, Juneau picked up about 1/2 an inch of precipitation, as did Middleton Island and Yakutat. And the heaviest amount was at Wrangell with a little over 0.8 of an inch of precipitation there. Winds gusted as high as 40 miles an hour at Cape Decision, and were even stronger off the coast, off the north coast with some buoys there, 40-45 miles an hour with those. But Bethel had gusts to 38 miles an hour as well, which was as well as St. Michael, as I mentioned earlier. Anyway, that low pressure area will be continue northeastward and continue to weaken, but kind of sit off the coast, not really push inland too fast over the next day or so, at least for today. Actually, the front now pushing east of the Panhandle at this current time, but earlier it was, of course, off the coast there. Low pressure center is still about in the same spot that's drawn here on the chart, and then a weak low up over the eastern interior, kicking off a few isolated showers that really haven't amounted to too much, and then the system pushing some rain into the west coast there, heaviest over the Seward Peninsula area, and may see some moderate amounts maybe on the upslope areas of the Kuskokwim Mountains there and the Lotto Hills, and those areas will be kind of isolated with the lighter rainfall, about 1 to 2/10 inch back to the Pribilofs into the western Aleutians. And otherwise, not a bad day. Some dense fog up along the Arctic coast. Otherwise, some partial clearing, mostly cloudy, dry conditions there. Kobuk, Koyukuk Valley, Yukon Flats, Brooks Range, and the North Slope with the fog, mainly along the central eastern Arctic coast. That'll continue into tonight with the chance for fog, but also a chance of precipitation along the frontal boundary up there. Light precipitation. Heaviest rainfall amounts with that front that's another one kind of develops, maybe could be just a trough, but looks like it should pick the rainfall up again as it moves in to the Panhandle tonight. The other area with that front pushing inland, look for possible moderate amounts of rain along the upslope areas of the Kuskokwim Mountains, lighter behind the front, and definitely the winds coming down. Not that they'll be that strong in advance of the front, but they'll definitely be lighter behind it. And rain possibly moderate at times, Adak and Atka, rain, fog, drizzle, IFR for the Pribilofs, much of the Bering Sea, looking at some IFR and precipitation tonight, and even some precipitation chances over the Copper River Basin, the Susitna Valley, with showers possible for the Talkeetnas. before it starts to clear out, as you can see, high pressure building in, so it'll begin to clear, especially after midnight and toward morning. And that'll lead to a mostly sunny day for south central Alaska, Prince William Sound, up into much of the interior, all the way to the Arctic coast. Lingering showers east side there, and then that frontal boundary with right along the west coast. Look for rain from the northwest coast, Cape Lisburne, all the way down to Cape Newenham. And then a break for Bristol Bay, chance of light rain, southern coast of the Alaska Peninsula, increasing clouds in the afternoon for Kodiak Island, but remaining dry, and look for some light rain with that front pushing into Unmak Island with showers or areas of rain with a few troughs there over the western central Aleutians, and rain decreases, becoming more showery, maybe ending over the northern Panhandle in the afternoon. Then that system, let me back it up one there, system south of Kodiak Island, you can see really deepens and becomes quite a formidable storm as the low complex out in the Bering Sea sort of merges into just a trough there. You can see south of Nunivak Island as the the big pressure falls, sort of place the focus there almost on top of King Salmon for the slow center during the mid-afternoon hours on Sunday. So strong winds, heavy rain into Kodiak Island, and good gale force winds for sure for the Barren Islands and western North Gulf Coast, Kamishak Bay as well. Small craft advisory, southern Cook Inlet, and 30-knot winds in the forecast for the eastern North Gulf Coast, as well as Prince William Sound, looking at 30-knot winds out of the east on Sunday with rain, heaviest rain, western Prince William Sound, rain heavy at times, southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula, and also gusty winds through the mountain passes, south central Alaska. Could gust late Sunday or Sunday evening, Sunday night, could gust as high as 70 miles an hour with maybe 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts in the Anchorage area. Otherwise, it'll be quite windy even across all the Kenai Peninsula, starting in the afternoon, continuing through Sunday night into Monday. But as you can see, head north, lighter winds and clearer skies, dry conditions all the way up to the Arctic coast. Probably be some dense fog again along the eastern Arctic coast especially. Chance of dense fog anywhere along the Arctic coast, but it looks best for the east side there, maybe the central coast. And the remnants of a trough keep showers in over the Panhandle, maybe diminishing or ending in the late afternoon. Could see maybe some breaks, getting a little optimistic there. But then you'll be back into it with the front coming in late Sunday night and Monday there. That system as it kicks off to the east and northeast. Otherwise, out in the Bering Sea, quite a gradient there, so pretty windy with northeast winds over the northern Bering Sea, turning northerly in the central areas, and then west-northwest as it sweeps down across the eastern Aleutians Alaska Peninsula with surges of moisture with each passing trough kicking up these showers and rainfall, but drier and less wind as you head west into high pressure up over the Russian Far East, linking up with the one south of the western Aleutians. Otherwise, temperatures for tonight, lows in the lower 50s over the Panhandle, upper 30s Copper River Basin, mid to upper 30s for the Kuskokwim Valley, and otherwise mostly in the 40s. Kenai possibly down to 39, 44 at Kodiak, and then the highs for Saturday afternoon, lower 60s Copper River Basin, Susitna Valley, Madanuska Valley, Anchorage area, Kenai Peninsula, right along the coast, so upper 50s, lower 50s, or in the 50s for the Kuskokwim Valley, upper 50s Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, 60 for Yakutat, otherwise 55 to 60 or 61 there for the southeast coast, followed by lows Sunday morning, around 40 for the Copper River Basin, otherwise in the 40s for the remainder of southern Alaska, Kodiak, and about 50, and upper 40s to lower 50s for the Panhandle. Moving on into high temperature Sunday afternoon, 50s, 55 to 60 again for the southeast coast, and upper 50s south central Alaska, mid 50s along the coastline, but lower 60s Copper River Basin, lower to mid 50s Kuskokwim Valley, mid 50s Bristol Bay, upper 50s Kodiak Island. Up to the north, we've got mid 30s for the Arctic coast, North Slope, and upper 30s to mid 40s south of the Brooks Range there in the central interior areas, with lower 40s for the Seward Peninsula, the northwest coast to St. Lawrence Island, followed by highs tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, 50s, mid to upper for the interior, lower to mid 40s along the Arctic coast, upper 40s in the Bering Strait, and Sunday morning lows looking in the 30s again, staying above the frost point there, except for Eagle, may drop to the freezing point there at 32, otherwise in the 40s, lower to mid, and mid 60s for the highs around Fairbanks, cooler as you head west, getting down into the 40s for the Seward Peninsula and St. Lawrence Island. Out to the southwest, morning lows in the mid to upper 40s, lower 40s over the inland areas of the southwest interior. Highs for Saturday afternoon, 50s, lower to mid 50s, upper 50s Bristol Bay. Back in the 40s for the lows Sunday morning, followed by highs about the same, lower to mid 50s just about everywhere. Mid 50s for the Alaska Peninsula, mid 40s for St. Lawrence Island, but Nome should reach 50.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Aviation weather for tomorrow morning. A lot of IFR, Arctic coast north slope, and even southward there across the Brooks Range into the Kobuk and part of the Koyukuk Valley. South of there, though, we break out to VFR from the Yukon River right on down into northeast Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, Cook Inlet, western Alaska Range, Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, marginal VFR, eastern Copper River Basin, central eastern Alaska Range, northwestward, back across the Yukon River, and then VFR, upper Yukon River, Flats area, Porcupine River, even the eastern Arctic coast there, Barter Island, Kaktovik, VFR, IFR for the Panhandle, and a mix out over the Bering Sea and Aleutians. And from there, for the afternoon, IFR, eastern interior, except for the Brooks Range there, on out to the Arctic coast, got some IFR central Arctic coast, a little on the east side, marginal VFR, western Alaska, marginal VFR, eastern central Bering Sea, with some IFR from the Pacific, just reaching the south shore of the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, marginal, Fogneck Island northward, VFR, and the Panhandle improving, IFR now restricted over toward the border. And then for the Sunday morning outlook, good VFR in the interior again, just a narrow band of marginal stuff there across the Kobuk, Koyukuk, northern Koyukuk Valley, northeastward there to the Arctic coast. Central Arctic coast could see some IFR. Bering Sea mostly marginal. Aleutians could be mostly VFR. Alaska Peninsula marginal. Kodiak Island to Kamishak Bay. IFR, Togiak Bay and Dillingham into the southwest mountains. IFR. Panhandle back to IFR. And for the outlook Sunday afternoon, that IFR over the southeast coast burns off to VFR, maybe some lingering marginal VFR along the coast. And the IFR with that next storm staying just off the coast there, but spreading up into Prince William Sound. Strong west-northwesterlies improve the conditions there. Kodiak Islands, that low center pulls off to the east and northeast, behind the front especially. So starting out low, becoming VFR by the afternoon. And marginal VFR for the western Aleutians, most of the Bering Sea marginal, but Atka to Unalaska Island, all VFR. Pribilof's marginal, and the Arctic coast, kind of a mix there on the west side VFR, east side IFR. Anaktuvik, call it IFR tomorrow, a little better as you head eastward there to Adigan with less moisture. Go for marginal VFR at times throughout the day, Lake Clark and Merrill. VFR to start, marginal VFR on the increase during the afternoon, and that'll be mostly on the western approaches possibly. But anyway, a downward trend also in store for Rainy, starting out VFR, trending toward marginal throughout the day. Windy stays VFR the entire day Saturday, first day of the weekend, looking good for Isabel. But Mentasta starting out marginal, gradually becoming VFR. And for Tanita, good VFR. Portage starts out marginal, becoming VFR in the late morning through the afternoon. Chilkoot and White, IFR, and improving to at least marginal VFR, VFR if you're lucky, by late in the day. And for the freezing levels, 4,000 to 8,000 feet across the southern Bering Sea into Bristol Bay, and about 6,000 to 8,000 feet there for the Panhandle, and 4,000 feet in over the western interior in the northern Bering Sea, but the North Slope Arctic coast above 6,000 feet. Icing, areas of isolated moderate rime icing, actually mixed icing, call it, for the Panhandle there. And go for rime icing from Atka Island across the Pribilos, eastern Bering there into the lower and mid, almost to the mid-Yukon River Valley area. Some of that spreading in the Kuskoum Valley back to the northwest along the northwest coast. Another batch there entering the southwest Bering and the Komodorskis to Shimianatu. Jet stream, upper trough there out over the west central Bering. So the strongest jets south of the Aleutians there up to 135 knots, and then one branch kind of swings back to the northeast at 60 to 80 knots into the west coast, diminishing to about 40 to 50 knots over the southern interior, turning northwesterly, and pretty light for the Panhandle. And at 9,000 feet, southwest flow, 40 to 45 knots right into the southwest and central or west central interior there, diminishing though as you get into the central interior considerably, and kind of breezy around that low off the panhandle. 3,000 feet, showing again several low complex there out over the Bering Sea. Westerlies across the Aleutians, 40 knots, 40 to 45 knots into the southwest coast. Southeast 40 along the northwest coast, 25 knots eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Moderate chop, light to isolated moderate chop, all the western interior, pushing inland through the day. Same thing for the central and western Aleutians and even the eastern Arctic coast.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining us once again is our good friend Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska. He is here and has been here many times to talk to us about weather satellites and how those can help Alaskans understand our weather, how we can do better detection, keep more people safe from things even like volcanic ash. But today, Eric, you're going to talk to us a little bit more about weather satellites and how that can keep Alaskans safe and protect our property from wildfire, right?
That's right, Dave. Today's topic is where there's smoke, there's fire. And thanks for having us back again to Alaska
Anytime.
Weather. Well, weather satellites have a lot of different instruments on them. It turns out that the electromagnetic spectrum has a lot going on in it, and only one part of that is visible light, what we see.
Right.
Weather satellites, of course, report that. Today's topic is wildfires.
Okay.
There are some people who say that in Alaska in the summertime you don't have severe weather. These people are usually from Oklahoma or somewhere, and F5 tornadoes tend not to occur in Alaska.
Right.
People have also said what we do have in the summer. What is Alaska's severe summer weather can be hydrology,
right,
flash flood and erosion in the mountains and things like that, and fires, wildfires.
Absolutely.
Those were here in 2004, certainly remember that. We've got an example here from 2014. Now it was a quiet season overall, but in May, down on the Kenai Peninsula, we had a wildfire on the Funny River, and this is a satellite image from a polar orbiter that went right over Alaska, and we can see the plume of smoke coming out of that fire on the Kenai, curling down. It's caught in the wind.
Right.
It goes down toward Kodiak Island, curves around. You can see it circulating around a low pressure system that's in the Gulf of Alaska.
It was a beautiful picture.
Oh my gosh.
Except there was a fire.
There's a fire there. The nice thing is with this satellite image, you can tell where the fire origin is, where the smoke is coming from. And it's a color image. We're looking at the wavelength spectrum of about 0.4 to 0.7 micrometers or microns. That's what the human eye would see. If you were riding on the satellite and looked down, you could see this kind of an image.
Right.
So that's pretty nice. But it turns out there's more to the electromagnetic spectrum than just visible light.
Okay.
You've heard of infrared, ultraviolet, that kind of thing. If we move into longer wavelengths, let's go to one specifically, 3.7 micron.
Okay, 3.7.
Why worry about that one?
Okay.
Well, we've got an example here. 3.7, it turns out, happens to be very sensitive to a certain temperature range, temperatures where fires burn.
Okay.
And so we've got an example zoomed in a little more from that same Funny River fire down on the Kenai Peninsula, and we can see that you get up into a few hundred degrees Fahrenheit, and that's where the colors are. We can see there on the Funny River fire to the west and to the east, almost a horseshoe shape there, is not only we're seeing where the fire is in a general sense, but specifically where it's the active fire
That is where
front.
it's burning right now.
And it's
Amazing.
3.7 microns is the important temperature there.
Okay.
That's right.
So this is really important to firefighters on the ground, people that are making plans and directing the firefighters on where they need to go and cut the trenches and keep people safe.
You know it. If you want to fight that fire, you got to know where it is.
Okay.
You got to know the leading edge. We've also got a movie loop, nothing quite like animating it in time.
Yeah.
You can see the fire spreading out over time with a succession of film or succession of images. Now this is one channel, 3.7 micron. You know, we looked at that color smoke image before.
Right.
And that's actually a red, a green, and a blue. That's how you get color imagery. What if you took 3 different wavelengths in the infrared? You went from like 2.2 micron, 1.5 micron, up to 3.7. You mix them together, you get this other kind of color image, which is even a better way to sharply bring out the details of where that leading edge of the fire is.
Okay.
You'll note, though, in the infrared, guess what? We don't see the smoke. That's too bad. And on these movie loops, you can see the clouds go by. These channels can't see through clouds. The lesson is there's no one perfect solution. You got to have the visible, got to have some of that infrared single 3.7 channel, some of the infrared mixing to help get a different perspective. Another one, we've talked before about a fun channel called the Day-Night Band.
Yes, one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, and in Alaska in the winter, it's great. We've got all this darkness. The Day-Night Band is so sensitive to seeing light. You can see features that otherwise aren't available. Now in Alaska, when you have a forest fire, it tends to be light out all the time.
Right.
It's our summer. But we can go down south to the Rim Fire in California in 2013. Now, okay, it was in California, not Alaska, but Alaskan crews went down to fight that fire, so we can talk about it here on Alaska Weather. Here we have a 3.7 micron channel shot of the rim fire, again, kind of a horseshoe shape, showing that active fire front down there. And then we'll look again to the day-night band, the visible light, and then you can see how the fire is all bright. You can see the active fire front and actually the city lights over there too. Turns out that the cities, while they're active in a social sense, are not really hot in a fire sense. So they don't show up in the 3.7 micron. They're not hot like a fire is, but the fire in the cities look the same from a visible light perspective. And a fun thing here too is that we can see the smoke plume going north from the rim fire on the day-night band. So if we were ever to have, like in 2004 in Alaska, you get dark at night, we still had an active fire season that year.
Right.
That was, you know, that really bad year. The day-night band didn't exist then, but if we had fires now in August, we could use it then. The lesson here is weather satellites, they offer many different wavelengths of light. Some are used for different purposes, and some of these we just looked at tonight are especially helpful here in Alaska to find and to track the behavior of these wildfires so the crews can go out there and do their jobs.
Sure, sure. So a satellite toolbox for the firefighting crews and the fire weather forecasters, and it just underlines how important satellites are, especially for Alaska and our mission for the National Weather Service to protect life and property, and also to enhance the national economy. So wonderful stuff there, Eric. And people can look at pictures like this anytime by going to gina.alaska.edu. You'll find images there all around Alaska at various times of the year, and not just about fire weather, but volcanic ash and smoke and anything else you want to check out. They're always beautiful pictures and always interesting to look at no matter what time of the day. Thanks again for joining us, Eric. We appreciate it and welcome you back anytime. For this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder. See you next time. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Starting out with the marine forecast here for the southern southeast coast. First day of the weekend, south to southwest winds, 15 to 20 knots, seas 12 feet. Lighter winds and more variable in the direction from the north coast, as you can see, anywhere from northwest to northeast, with seas at 8 to 10 feet and wind speeds about 15 knots. South 15 for Lynn Canal, seas only 3 feet. North winds 20 knots, gusts 35 for Stevens Passage, and then south 25 for Clarence Strait. For Sunday, let's see, there we go. South to southeast winds 20 knots on the south coast, small craft advisories on the north coast, southeast 25, seas just under 10 feet, 7 feet down south. Clarence Strait, light southeast breeze at 10, Stevens Passage, southeast 15, Lynn Canal, south winds at 15 knots. And for the Cook Inlet area, north of the Forelands, light variable winds, 10 knots, seas 2 feet. South of the Forelands, variable to southwest at 15, and southeast 20 for Kamishak Bay. West winds 20 knots, Barren Islands, western North Gulf Coast, bring it down to 15 knots there around Middleton Island. Light northwest or variable winds for Prince William Sound. And then increase those winds. Prince William Sound, small craft advisories. East winds increasing to 30 knots on Sunday with seas building to 7 feet. Southeast 30 for the eastern North Gulf Coast. And gale warnings for the western North Gulf Coast. 35 knot winds, even stronger for the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay. Both zones there looking at southeast winds at 40 knots, 10 to 12 foot seas. Small craft advisories, southern Cook Inlet with east winds at 30 knots and seas at 8 feet. Northern Cook Inlet, east winds at 20 knots with 6 foot seas. And for the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow, south to southeast winds 20 knots, south 20 for Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, southwest winds 20 knots, Sitka to Castle Cape, south at 20. And for the day on Sunday, Alaska Peninsula, west winds 30 knots, good enough for small craft advisories. Small craft advisories also Bristol Bay, southwesterlies at 30 knots, seas up to 15 feet. And Kodiak Island, south to southwest winds 30 knots, seas 7 to 14 feet. Gale warnings from Sitkinak to Castle Cape, southwest winds at 35 knots, seas at 14 feet. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, 20 to 25 knot winds out of the southwest. seas 6 to 8 feet. Small craft advisories Adak and Atka over to Amchitka for 25-knot westerly winds with 7 to 8 foot seas. Kiska to Shimia, west winds 30 knots, seas 9 feet. And then for the day Sunday, we've got some gales, small craft advisories and gales with the gale force winds, Adak and Atka, westerlies 35 to 40 knots, 10 to 13 foot seas. Gale warnings also for the Fox Islands. West winds 30 to 40 knots, seas running 10 to 12 feet. And small craft advisories for Amchitka, west winds 30 knots, 25 knot west winds in the forecast from the area from Kiska to Shimia. And for the southwest coast, Kuskokwim Delta coast, south 25 knots. Small craft advisories for the Pribilof Islands, southwest 25 knots. Otherwise, St. Matthew Island, southwest at 25 knots, and that runs into a northeast wind at 15 knots along the Yukon Delta coast. St. Lawrence Island, south at 15, but small craft advisories for Norton Sound, southeast 25 knots, seas 5 feet. And then for Sunday, go east winds 20 knots for Norton Sound, turn northeast there for St. Lawrence Island at 20 knots. Small craft advisories for the southwest coast. West and northwest winds 25 to 30 knots, west 25 knots, 10-foot seas for the Pribilofs, northern Bering Sea northwest at 20. Up along the Beaufort Sea coast, small craft advisories for the eastern stretch of the coastline there for 25-knot east winds, come down to 20 knots for the central and west side, and south to southeast winds from Wales to Cape Beaufort with seas at about 7 feet. And then for Sunday, light variable winds, eastern Beaufort Sea coast 5 to 10 knots, turning east at 15 for the central and western coast, and then 10 to 20 knot easterlies from Cape Beaufort to Wales. And for tonight, quite an area of rain out in the west and some rain over the eastern interior. Heaviest rain will be over the central and southern southeast coast with that front and low pressure off the coast. And the second area heaviest rain will be over the western interior, especially the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, spilling into the Kuskokwim Valley and then trailing back out into the Aleutians. Lighter amounts of precipitation up north and in the Copper River Basin with clearing skies as high pressure builds into the south central Alaska area. And that'll continue into Saturday, mostly sunny. Could be some breaks on the Arctic coast, but south of the Brooks Range definitely, all the way down to the Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet. Look for an increase in the clouds, Kodiak Island. Precipitation pushes in with the next front, and then a big storm rolls up into Bristol Bay on Sunday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.